Hello, everyone. This is Sean Stewart of 586 Sports, and it is Friday, September 26th, 2025. Glad to be here on this wonderful Friday. Now, I usually broadcast on. I'm reposting it on 586 Sports, by the way. Usually, I would do the show on Thursday, but what happened was my AC plug did not charge my laptop. So my laptop was like 0%. So I was like, you know what? Hey, it's only one game last night, so I could do the show on Friday. So at least I can able to do the show. So I'm happy to do it. So we are going to do the week 4 NFL survivor pool. So whether you want Splash Sports, Circa, Sleeper, whatever platform you use, and also week 5 of NCAA football. And also, I want to give a shout out to my good friends at Shawarma Shack. They're located at 27751 Harper Avenue in St. Clair Shores, Michigan, 48081. That is 11 Mile Road in Harper. That's right up there. It used to be called Rice Bowl, and it's right next to Smoothie King. And across the street is like Nino Salvaggio's and CVS Pharmacy. All right. Also, I didn't put my microphone higher last episode, so that was the problem. Also, you can listen to the Safer Trap Survival Pool podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. So we did a little adjustments on that. So it's going to be on the 586 Sports platform, but you'll able to see it on the 586 Sports, and then you'll see the Spotify player. All right. All right. So we can get started on the show right now. So as you know, that the Green Bay Packers lost. So I do have the entries on last week's of the Survivor Pool on Splash Sports. So let me give you the safe first, and we're going to do the trap as well as we do. All right. But I got to tell you, man, I thought Green Bay was going to be Cleveland, and I am actually got all my entries, so I didn't pick the Green Bay Packers, so I got all my entries on my survivor pool. So if you have any questions you want to ask, feel free to ask. All right, let me put that right there. All right, there we go. It should go through. Okay, there we go. It goes through. All right, so here we go. So from last week's, people that picked Seattle Seahawks, there were like 251,358. I was one of them. People that picked the Buffalo Bills, that was 188,838. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 158,093. I was one of them. Because by the way, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Jets, by the way. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the New York Giants. There were 76,024 people that picked the Kansas City Chiefs. And there were 36,928 people picked the Colts to beat the Tennessee Titans. Now let's go for the trap, the ones that got eliminated. It's loading up, so you're gonna have to excuse me for that. All right, there we go. So for the all right, here we go. So is this the no? This can't be the okay. Here we go. So the people that picked the Green Bay Packers, it was like 150,863. The people that picked the Falcons, that was 52,194. As you know, the Atlanta Falcons lost to the Carolina Panthers 30-0. We'll discuss about them. The people that picked the Baltimore Ravens, that was 8,096. The people that picked the Cowboys to beat the Bears, it was almost 5,000, but it was 4,576. And the people that picked the Texans, it was 1,885. Goodness gracious. That is a heck of a lot of them. All right. Okay. So I do have the sheets. So I got the safe and I got your trap picked. Okay. So there is a game that I have been monitoring since Tuesday, and that is the Carolina Panthers and the New England Patriots. Now the Patriots are a 5.5 point favorite over the Panthers. So that does give the Patriots a 58% chance to win. That is far lower than other home favorites this week, by the way. Now, as you know, they're coming off that 21-14 loss to the Steelers. They have not shown consistent offensive dominance. That's really I'm concerned about. Now, Drake May has a 72.6 completion rate, but the turnovers and decision making are still in concern. Now, as I did say seconds ago, Carolina defeated the Atlanta Falcons 30-0. And that's where I'm really concerned about. Now, if this was like a 6-3 Carolina Panthers win, I would say I would pick the Patriots minus the offense because the offense was bad. But since you playing the Carolina Panthers with that shutout and with that bad offense, I would not recommend the not Atlanta Falcons, the New England Patriots to beat the Carolina Panthers. So I would walk away from that. I will walk away from that. Now, there are multiple weeks you can pick the Detroit Lions. So Detroit Lions is going to play the Cleveland Browns. So if you're not going to use the Detroit Lions this week, so you can use them in this week, next week, week 12 versus the Giants, week 14 versus the Cowboys, and week 18 on the road against the Chicago Bears. So those are your multiple choices as well. So when you do survival pool, you want to check the status of the value of that pit because when it comes to survival pools, is think of it as like a stock market. That's what I think about survival pools. Survival pools, when I think of that, I think of it as like a stock market because like one week that'll be great, then the next thing is it goes down. So it's up and down. That's why you want to pay attention to the value of that particular team as well. So, like I said, so if you want to use Detroit, use that. But if not, you can use them either next week when they go on the road against the Bengals, week 12 versus the Giants, that's a home game. Week 14 against the Cowboys, that's a home game. And then week 18 on the road against the Chicago Bears. Next one you can also look at is the Denver Broncos, well, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos. Now, that game as in Denver, they do have an elite defense, but the offense is very questionable because they have lost. Man, because first you lost to the Colts, and then you lost to the Chargers last week. And then for the Bengals, they don't have Joe Burrow, so they have Jay Browning as quarterback because he come off that 48-10 loss against the Minnesota Vikings. And who would ever thought that the Vikings would ever put them points against the Cincinnati Bengals? So if if you have the Denver Broncos on your survival pool, I would recommend taking that. And also look at your entries because you may have like more than one entry because it's different between having more than one entry and just having one. Because if you have more than one, because if you have one entry and then your pool is like, let's say 200 people, that will change your dynamic pick. So strategy is always involved when it comes to survival pool. Next one, it's a trap game. You're looking at the Dolphins and the Jets. Now, both of these teams are 0-3. The Dolphins have the league worst offense with 18.7 red zone touchdown rate, and they're 38.1 with the three and out rate. Now, with the Jets, they do have a drive success rate of 41.2 versus Miami 32.8, more time of possession and fewer turnovers. Now, Tua has regressed and was held to just 146 yards last week against the Buffalo Bills. And if you're a Jets fan, you got to be happy because the Jets will get Justin Fields back. So, with that case, he could exploit Miami's defense that is 31st in explosive plays allowed. Now, another game, if you guys are thinking that is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Vikings, that is being played in Ireland. So, you'll watch that on NFL Network. So, and I just found out that is the NFL's first regular season game ever held there. So it's a neutral site, and supposedly Aaron Rodgers, Farewell Energy, and then Minnesota, can they get that energy just like they did last week when they defeated the Cincinnati Bengals? So I don't like this. I don't like this between these two. I would recommend you guys not picking that game because it's a neutral site, so anything could happen. So don't take that game. Then the next one you have is the LA Chargers on the road as they go to the Giants. So the Chargers right now they're 3-0 while the Giants are 0-3. Now I'm looking at Justin Herbert. He's playing elite. The Giants will have a new starting quarterback that is Jackson Dart. That is his first career game. Now the Chargers do have a top tier defense under Jesse Minter. That is first in scoring last season and still dominant in 2025. And the Chargers are averaging nearly 400 yards per game. They're projected to hit 450 plus yards this week against this bad New York Giants defense. So if you got the Chargers on your survival pool, I would recommend using that. Then another one, depending on what your survival pool look like, it is the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. Now the Titans are dead last in most power rankings. Both teams are 0-3. Now, the AFC South games are usually historically unpredictable. Now, last year, Houston did lose to Tennessee at home in 2024. Now, if you have a lot of those teams that I mentioned, such as like the Denver Broncos, the Detroit Lions, Buffalo Bills, I recommend you not. Or if you just have one entry on your survival pool, I recommend you not picking the Houston Texans. Now, if you do have more than one entry, I would say go for it. But if you just have one entry, do not pick that game because possibly you can be eliminated. Then you also got to look at the Chicago Bears and the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Caleb Williams has thrown 3 picks in 3 games. The Raiders have forced 5 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. As the Bears, they're inconsistent on offense. They do have a shaky offensive line. Now, as for the Raiders, we don't even know who's going to be the starting QB, either Aiden O'Connell or GBG. And they have not only they have a weak run game, but they're also turnover prone. That is not another game you want to avoid. Don't take that. Now, if you are playing college football survival pool on Splash Sports, there are a couple of games that you need to be on alert. By the way, so let us start with the. Let's see what I'll start with because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. So let's start with the ACC. So let's start with Friday's game. So Friday's game is Florida State at Virginia. Now Florida State is ranked 8th as they're doing well. Now Virginia is 3-1 and they're explosive. They're averaging 564.5 yards and 45.5 points per game. Now Chandler Morris has thrown for over 1,000 yards and just 1 interception. So next week, Florida looks ahead to Miami in week 6, so they could be burnt. The next one you can also need to pay attention to is Georgia Tech at Wake Forest. Now, Georgia Tech is favored by 2 touchdowns, but Wake Forest has a sneaky good run game led by Devin Claiborne with 9.9 yards per carry. Then you can also look at Louisville at Pittsburgh. Now, Louisville is undefeated. They're averaging 40 points per game nearly. Now, Pitt is coming off a bye week as that game is at home. Now, Pittsburgh's quarterback Eli Halston has 9 touchdowns and could turn that into a shootout. So you want to be alert as that. Duke and Syracuse. Now, as you guys know, Syracuse just upset Clemson as that momentum builds. Now, Darian Masana and Garrett Trander could be a duel. So it is it's in a dome. So Syracuse plays fast and loose at home. So want to be alert on that game as well. Oh, I get this. Then let's look at the Big Ten. The Big Ten. Now, top ranked Ohio State is going to Washington. Now, the Huskies run for 262 yards per game and has a dual threat QB. Now, the Buckeyes, Julian Sayin is making his first Big Ten road start. Then you also look at Rutgers and Minnesota. Now, I will recommend you not touching that game at all. Now, Rutgers do have a decent passing attack, but their defense is in bottom 10th nationally as the Golden Gophers are inconsistent but coming off a bye and playing at home. Then you have Indiana and Iowa. Indiana blew off Illinois, and Iowa does have an offense that's still searching for identity, and their defense may not be enough. Then you also got the biggest of the biggest game. You got Oregon versus Penn State. The Nittany Lions are favored, but Oregon beat them last year, if you guys remember that, in the Big Ten Championship, and they have the playmakers to do it again. I would recommend you not touching that. And then you also look at James Franklin's record. So he is iffy. James Franklin is iffy. Then you want to look at the Big 12. You got TCU at Arizona State. Now, Arizona State is surging after a gritty win over Baylor. Sam Levitt is finding rhythm, as Jordan Tyson will be back at wide receiver. Then you got Baylor at Oklahoma State. Baylor's favored, but Oklahoma State just fired their head coach. Now, they're coming off a loss and could bounce back hard, as that is a emotional edge and revenge factor from last year's loss. Then you have Arizona and Iowa State. Arizona is 3-0 and favored. Iowa State is tough at home. They have a defense that can frustrate Arizona's tempo. Then you want to look at Houston and Oregon State. Houston is 3-0. They're traveling to Oregon State. Now, they are a winless but desperate, and late night West Coast games are unpredictable. So you want to pay attention to that between Houston and the Oregon State Beavers. So pay attention to that if you are picking your survival pool on Splash Sports. Let's go to the SEC. What I want to do is I want to get all the games, by the way. No, I got a couple games. I got a couple of games. So another one you want to pay attention to is Mississippi State. Well, number 15 ranked Tennessee will face Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State is 4-0. They're averaging nearly 40 points per game. Joey Aguilar hasn't played a true role game yet, so that would be the best. That would be the biggest test for him. Then you also got Auburn and ninth-ranked Texas A&M. Now, Auburn does have the number one rushing defense in the country and a dynamic QB in Jackson Arnold. Now, the Aggies is vulnerable against the run and could be overhyped after beating Notre Dame. Then also, USC is on the roll when they face against the Fighting Illini. Now, Illinois was in Burns last week, but returns 16 starters and could have started defensive back Xavier Scott back. So if he's healthy, he's neutralized half the field. Also, you got University of Central Florida versus Kansas State. Let me see, I got that. Okay, here we go. So Central Florida is 3-0 underdog with momentum. They have a dual threat quarterback in Tavion Jackson. Now, for the Kansas State, they do have struggled against weak competition. Another game you want to look at is Alabama versus Georgia. Now, Bama advanced metrics are stronger than Georgia's. Georgia is 101st in pass defense success rate, and that is a bad matchup against Alabama's air track. So those will be the games that you want to pay attention to as far as like possible upset alerts. So those are like the possible upset alert on Splash Sports Survivor Pool. So there you have it. So it was a quick show, by the way. So thank you guys very much. And like I said, you will able to watch it on YouTube or on Rumble. Or if you're on the go, you can listen to the Safer Trap Survival Pool show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. So I will have the Survival Pool grid sheet around, I'll say tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. So because of the power, I'll say Saturday morning. So I'll guys let you know about that. And you can also follow me on Instagram, X, Threads at 586 Sports S. That is 2 S's. And make sure you follow 586 Sports. And also, when you're on the website, make sure you subscribe to our weekly newsletter. So on the newsletter, you will get the latest podcast interviews, the contest, whether it's Survivor Pool, Touchdown Survivor, and there will also be a referral code to to the to the contest as well. All right. So if you do want that message, the contest, send me the send me a reply, and I'll send you the invite to the contest as well. All right. So you guys have a nice, wonderful weekend. We will be back on our regularly scheduled program next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So take care. Have a wonderful weekend.